TYT Sports brings you the shot clock, everybody. Ben Mankos, J.R. Jackson, Dave Rubin is out this week. He's ill. So last week we did top 5 underrated.
No, overrated.
Last week we did top 5 overrated. This week we're doing top 5 underrated. And I mean, here's where you could have a top 5 underrated: the Atlanta Hawks. They're starting 5. But I will, and I'm going to take either one or two of them. But my point guard, no question, is Jeff Teague. I mean, because in a general league-wide, against people who follow the league and write about the league, they get it now that Jeff Teague is almost the prototypical point guard, and that you don't hear about by the way, when you need a bucket and he needs to score it, he'll score it. But he involves everybody on that team. And could easily be starting the All-Star game, although the guys in front of him are also terrific. You know, it's not like you want him ahead of John Wall or Kyle Lowry. The East has some great point guards, and Teague is among them. But Teague, who's every bit as good as John Wall, does not get the press that John Wall gets. So he's my underrated point guard. My underrated shooting guard is really another point guard, but every time I watch the Phoenix Suns play, I don't understand why the offense doesn't go through him more, because every time Dragic has the ball and makes something happen, I feel like they score. I feel like they get a bucket. And then sometimes, I've seen 2 Phoenix games in person, and then sometimes when he's like scored 7 straight points, and then he comes down, he hands the ball to Eric Bledsoe, and he trots off to the corner and he waits out the 24 seconds. And I don't quite get it, but I'm sure I'm missing something. But he's really a point guard playing shooting guard, but he's my shooting guard. Small forward, a guy who's really emerged. I think one of only maybe 5 or 6 guys in the NBA getting 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Gordon Hayward in Utah has turned into, I didn't think he would. Man, I wish he'd hit that half-court shot after the ridiculously, pointlessly, intentionally missed free throw against Duke. But he's turned into a really nice player. Andre Drummond, this might be a little premature on him because he's shown signs since Josh Smith was fired. Yeah. You don't see a lot of professional athletes getting fired. But since Josh Smith got fired, Drummond has really played well in Detroit. And if he continues on this trajectory, then you can't take his whole season and say he's underrated. But based on his last 15 games, he's underrated. And then I came down to the power forward, and then I was leaning Derrick Favors again in Utah, a guy who's really blossomed this year. He was a nice player, but turned into a really top-notch player. His offensive game in points per possession has really gotten impressive. His defense is okay. He's efforting. But I got to go back, and I got to go Paul Millsap because he's still, despite an All-Star appearance, I believe, last year. Correct, Jason, for Millsap?
Yes.
He still feels underrated, and he and Teague feel like the cogs to this team that is, winning 28 out of 30 games. So Derrick Favors, I guess, the 6th man or the first guy off the bench in the front court for my all-underrated team.
So, of course, you guys know I already went with the overrated last week. But you know what? There's a lot of underappreciated players in the league. And, I'm going to agree with one of the things Ben talked about with Jeff Teague. Again, the entire team, the entire Atlanta Hawks team doesn't get talked about enough. And then when we see what they've been doing, people are beginning to talk about them. They go, oh, wow, how they pulling this off? Must be Kyle Korver. No, Jeff Teague is the driver of this team. He plays actually great defense as well. As an undersized guy, he's only 6'2". All point guards going to be around that size, but he looks smaller than most guys on the floor. And he gets in the trees, he gets in the woods, as they say, with the big guys down low. And he causes havoc, even on defense. People a lot of times only look at the offensive play of someone. So I love the way he plays on both ends of the court as the point guard. My number 2, my shooting guard, underrated, Wesley Matthews from the Trailblazers. He's one of those guys that the league, I feel like, knows is a threat. Every time he's out there, every time he's floating around the three-point line, every time he gets the ball and is threatening in any kind of way, there's attention being paid to him. And they know this guy is one of the powers of the league. Again, I think he's getting drowned out a little bit by the LaMarcus Aldridges of the team. And of course, everyone's talking about Damian Lillard. So they're the guys that you think, of course, and you guys know how I complain about the All-Star voting, where fans take note of these guys instead of looking at the other players who really contribute. And I know, Ben, you're going to call me a homer, and he's not even necessarily a 3-man, but Taj Gibson.
No, I love
Taj
Gibson.
Taj Gibson's a beast. Trojan, fight on. He's a beast. He's been in the league for 5 seasons. He's with the Bulls, and
Totally valid.
And again, he looks undersized as well too. He's down there, and he grabs more. He grabs 7 boards a game, 11 points a game, just over 11 points a game, and 7 boards. And he's down there, and he's a man. He's playing for real. You don't get that much anymore. You get guys that trying to finesse too much. He just plays ball and does his thing. I love Taj again.
No, I don't think you're a homer for picking Taj Gibson. It's a totally valid pick. I'm looking at the Hawks roster, and we've spent almost every segment of the show we're talking about the Hawks. But and one reason why I picked Paul Millsap over Derrick Favors because of the defense. I mean, the defensive rating for Millsap is under 100, which is outstanding. Favors was 107. But like Millsap, Kyle Korver is the worst defensive player on the Hawks, but he's not terrible. And he's got a better defensive rating than Dragic, who I put on this team. And then you look at Horford and Teague and Carroll and Cephalosha off the bench. I mean, this team plays defense. That's why they're winning, and they're efficient offensively, and they play good, aggressive defense, and they go 7-8 deep with that quality defense.
Anthony Davis from the Pelicans.
Underrated?
This is a guy that everyone knew coming in was going to be great. They talk about him. But people forget. This is just my perception from what I think people don't really see is going on. The guy scores 24.3 points a game, 10 boards. Yeah, he's huge. But I don't think anyone would think this guy scores over damn near 25 points a game on average.
We did a segment a couple weeks ago of would you take right now LeBron, Durant, or Davis? And I took Davis.
And many people wouldn't.
Yeah.
They think, oh yeah, LeBron, oh yeah, KD. But
can't go wrong with KD. But I would, I would take it. By the way, real quick on Wesley Matthews. Do you have all 5? Have you named all 5?
I have a center to go. But
Wesley Matthews. I crossed off my list. Took Dragic. And a much better defensive player than Dragic, but could easily be on a team. If I went 10 deep, I'd have Wes Matthews.
Yeah, and finally, of course, and they do talk about this underrated player a lot because he is DeAndre Jordan, the center from the Clippers. I mean, it's ridiculous. Everything that everyone does on that team, all the way down to CP3, it gets facilitated by DeAndre. His only weakness is the same thing with the Hacker Shaq problem that they had with Shaq. But, I mean, people still understood that Shaq was an issue. Again, coaches and I think players understand DeAndre Jordan is your issue when you have to play the Clippers. You think, they got Blake Griffin, he dunks, throws the ball around, and he, of course, he's a great player. He's, I think, the best point guard in the league, a power forward in the league. But you still got to deal with DeAndre, who frees up all that happening, and he makes people look bad every night. I mean, I think he averages double-doubles, he's in
also
points and rebounds.
He's also, I think he actually averages single digits in points, but they don't need him
He's
to
a
score.
10.
Just above. He's just above. He's got a double-double. He's also leading the league in boards.
Yeah,
for the second
I know he's
straight
leading the league
season.
in boards. But you don't need, he's also maybe the easiest guy to root for in the league. Like, if we're looking in the world of sports to find guys who are easy to like, DeAndre Jordan,
He's one of them.
incredibly easy to like.
A few quick observations. Well, one, Mike Conley is one of the most underappreciated and underrated players in the league.
Totally.
Memphis Grizzlies are a fantastic team. He's averaging 18-6, and each year he has developed more parts of his game and as a floor general. Wesley Matthews is the owner of the best three-point celebration in the game. Cox back with the 3. Very awesome. Greg Monroe is a major part of that Pistons team that continues to get better and better. And also, big game Dame. I was watching the Portland Trailblazers versus Boston Celtics game yesterday on League Pass. Great game. I like watching the Blazers a lot. They're a fun team to watch. They're a fun team to root for. Big game Dame took his attempt with 1 second left from way far out while being triple teamed by the Celtics to win the game. They were down by 1. He had a wide open Wes Matthews in the corner. You got to pass the ball to him. One of the broadcasters in games earlier this week had one of the better lines is Wesley Matthews should not let the ball touch the floor. Not because his ball handling isn't that great, because his shooting is that good. Just catch the ball and shoot.
Wes Matthews has shot 336 three-pointers this year.
How many? What's his percentage?
40.
It's not bad.
336 threes.
He's one of those guys, I mean, he won't miss a shot. Of course, you may think, those 7 or 8 dunks. He has a couple nice little inside moves. He knows his game, and he gets there, and he's efficient with what he does. Last thing about Wesley Matthews, since we're on the love train for him, they said his jumper wasn't that great, as we just talked about how good his jumper is now. It wasn't that great when he came in the league. He's only been in the league for 5 years. But he worked with Jeff Hornacek, and got that, and every year increasingly got that jumper. And that's ethic, man. That's what we always celebrate when it comes to the NBA players, and they develop a certain part of the game that now becomes something they're known for. And you gotta love them for that.